Ready? Looks like we've got everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tammy, ready to go?
Sure. I was just looking to see. It looks like Ray's just connecting now.
Good.
So yeah, no, I think you can bring the meeting to order.
Let's do it. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting of the School Building Committee to order Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. It's a little after 5 p.m. Can we please have attendance?
Mayor Donald Humison,
Here.
Stephen Zaporowski,
Here.
Shannon Barry,
Here.
Stacy Burgess, Chris Carey,
Here.
Ray Diaz,
Here.
Ralph Figge,
Present.
Brian Perrette,
He was trying to
Kelly.
log on.
okay. Bridget Matthews Kane,
Here.
Bill Parks. Was that here? Ryan Sullivan, Cindy Sullivan,
Here.
Tammy Teff,
Here.
Tolpa,
Here.
and Lisa Benoit.
You didn't call me, but Shelley Hazlett's here too.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Shelley.
And this is Brian Fred. I'm on the phone. I can't get Zoom to work.
And I'm resending Stacy the link.
Okay. Can you just let me know when she enters the meeting? What time, please?
I'm here, Cindy. I got it, Chris. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Stace.
Also in attendance, Dan Pilata, Robert Tedisco, Kurt Edgen. Where's Kurt?
I don't know. I don't see Curtis.
I don't see Kurt either. Okay. Is Bert here?
I'm here.
Hey, Bert. How you doing? And Jim as well.
I know that Dan is on his way actually to City Hall right now to drop off a bunch of stuff. So he'll click on a little later.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see Dan either.
Yep. And I don't think Rob's here tonight either because he's dropping the stuff off with Dan and then heading back to the office. So Dan will join us in a little bit.
Good. I always have to talk about audio recordings and video recordings, even though we're on Zoom. So I never understand how that works, but I don't think I just need to mention that, right? And then we can move on to item number 3. Sorry? Okay. Approval of January 6th School Building Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ralph.
Second.
Thanks, Ray. Motion's made and seconded. The corrections or changes to the minutes? Okay, then may we please have a roll call?
Sure. Mayor Donald Humison,
Yes.
Stephen Zaporowski,
Yes.
Shannon Barry,
Yes.
Stacy Burgess,
Yes.
Chris Carey,
Here.
Ray Diaz,
Yes.
Ralph Figge,
Yes.
Brian Perrette,
Yes.
Shelley Hazlett,
Yes.
Bridget Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Bill Parks, Brian Sullivan,
I'm here, Bill Parks.
Bill
Hey, Bill.
Parks. What about Brian?
I don't see him.
Okay, thank you. Cindy Sullivan,
Yes.
Tammy Teff,
Yes.
Chris Tolpa,
Yes.
and Lisa Benoit.
Yes.
Okay, and that passed. Item number 4, the review of the preliminary of the PDP submittal package of the elementary school project submission to MSBA. Before we discuss it, do we have to have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the PDP as presented.
Second,
Thank you, Rob. Who seconded that?
I did, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy. Okay, motion's made and seconded. Discussion of the package.
Bert, do you want to do it, or Jim, do you want to kind of go over?
Who wants to?
Can people see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna move my. Looking away from people. But. Okay, so this evening, we've got all of the design alternatives that we're gonna present this week. Just kind of summarize for most, if you haven't seen yet, is requested last week for a single story option. And I'll go through that one in kind of more detail so that you can see a little bit more of the process that we go through with these. Again, go over the PDP alternatives. The 2E is the single story edition. We have our PDP submission going on Thursday this week, and then I'll talk just on what the next steps are for the preferred schematic report. All right, so basically we started out, there were a lot of design requirements that we looked at, 195 and 295 student enrollments that kind of doubled the number of alternatives. We also confirmed there were no existing buildings that could be used for a school other than the Franklin property. We don't have any rent tuition agreements with other districts. There's no rental properties. We received 2 educational programs that we'll work on the district, one for each of the design enrollments. And from that document, we came up with some key elements that we kind of pulled out of that document. And we put these together, and you'll see there's a couple pages here of the things that we thought were important. And we created a table that we use kind of as a graphic so that when you're reviewing or anybody's reviewing the design alternatives in our report, they can kind of quickly look down the columns and these elements to see how successful that option is in supporting the ed plan. So we'll go right to the alternatives that will be in the PDP. We went through a lot of these last week, so I don't have floor plans, just the site plans and the summaries for each one. The first is the base repair option. As we mentioned last week, this is not an alternative that the district is going to pursue, but this would just stabilize your building structurally, and it would make it code compliant for life safety systems. So to do this, you can see there's a lot of red in the column of the table that we created. There's a good number of yellow, and there's only a couple of things that ended up being supported in the educational program if we ended up going that route. The cost for a base repair option is $12,600,000 for the construction, and it's your existing school, so 33,000 square feet basically. Again, just to touch on the numbers that we're providing here are basically just a placeholder at this point, and not really the numbers that you should be carrying forward thinking, oh, this option is going to be that much money. It's really an evaluation tool so that you can see how much more one design alternative is as opposed to another design alternative. So we put numbers in just because it's a requirement of the thing, but there have been no formal cost estimates done on the project yet. That comes at the PSR phase, the preferred schematic report, which is the next submission we make. These are they're ballpark square foot costs that we use, but I wouldn't take any of them to the bank yet. We haven't gotten that detailed in the design. So design alternative 1A is a single enrollment, so 195 students in new construction. This alternative was 55,800 square feet with a construction cost of $25,300,000. And you can see that as new construction, we're able to almost hit everything in the educational program to be well supported. The only reason you got a couple of yellows, it's under improves equity of the city's most economically disadvantaged students and fosters positive relation between school and community. Those landed yellow just simply because in the single enrollment options, Abner Gibbs students are left out. So phasing would be necessary for this design alternative. We might be able to avoid temporary classrooms, though. We could probably build a portion of the new building before we had to take down portions of the existing building, so kids could have swing space and move over before we finish the job. Almost every option you'll see has phasing considerations are necessary. That's simply because at some point we have to take down the existing building and finish the site work. So, it doesn't always mean that there's tremendously complicated phasing. It just means that there is some phasing that's going to have to be considered in the project. Design alternative 1B is again a single enrollment school, so just the Franklin Elementary School students, a new construction with the added parcel on Franklin Street. So you can see we've kind of moved the building to the south side of the site in this option. We've got 54,866,000 gross square feet and a construction cost of $24,900,000. Again, almost all green, just a couple of yellows because the Abner students aren't included in this. Looks like yellow for the phasing instead of red, so that means that we probably felt strongly that we could accomplish this with swing space in the new school before we had to take down the existing Franklin school. Design alternative 01C is a single enrollment addition renovation project with the added parcel up front. So that you've got entrance off of Franklin Street that still shows a bus loop off of Franklin Ave. 54,866,000 gross square feet and a construction cost of $21,700,000. And the last one for the single enrollment is design alternative 01D. This is again an addition renovation, and it's gross square footage of 54,577 gross square feet and estimated construction of $21,800,000. And again, you see a good amount of green. You get a few more yellows in the renovations because we're working within the existing building, and we don't always get the layouts that we want as far as adjacencies and sizes of rooms and things like that, but still pretty good support of the ED program. Now we're moving into the consolidated enrollments, which are the ones the city really is interested in. So the full 395 students, this is both the Franklin Ave and the Abner Gibbs populations on the Franklin site. So this first one is a new building with the parcel on Franklin Street. This comes in at 86,718 gross square feet, a grossing factor of 1.46, and an estimated construction cost of $37.9 million. As you see, a lot of green is supported on this option, which is probably why a lot of people liked it, the options we showed previously. Does a good job supporting the ED program, and we could probably build this school as well without any need for temporary. It actually says there's no need for temporary classrooms. Right there. Design alternative 2B is another new construction without the parcel on Franklin Street. You can see that this does result in needing to get some kind of temporary space for the kids because we've had to push the building back towards the center of the site, and the impact on the existing school we don't think would be overcome through swing space the way the building is laid out. But the ED program is fully supported. Other than that, again, 87,932 gross square feet, $38.4 million for construction. Design alternative 2C is an addition renovation without the parcel on Franklin Street, again, for all 395 students of the Abner Gibbs and Franklin Elementary Schools. You've got a gross square footage of 86,718 square feet, grossing factor of 1.7, and an estimated construction cost of $36,200,000. As a renovation, again, you start seeing some yellows come up, so that means we're partially supporting the ED program, but it's not perfect in all cases. The things that fall short on this one promotes building as a teacher. The new areas could certainly do so. We could even do so in some areas of the existing building, but we're working with what we've got in the existing school. Supports whole group, small group, partner, and independent study. Might lack a little bit with breakout spaces. This provides breakout space for group work. We don't get them in all the wings exactly where we want them. Organizes classrooms into similar age neighborhoods. The neighborhoods aren't as defined in the existing school because of the double loaded quarters, so they become more like grade clusters. We can keep grades together, but they don't have the same kind of relationship as the neighborhoods in new construction would. And then academic intervention space within each neighborhood. Again, just because we're working within the existing building, we don't always get the intervention space as close to the classrooms as we would want to. Public and academic zones are a little bit, get a little bit confused or washed out in the middle of the building here too. We don't have the well-defined separation that we'd like to, but we can still make something work that would keep at least the classrooms, I think, behind security doors if we wanted to, so that after hours you wouldn't have to worry about people getting down there. Design alternative 2D. Consolidated enrollment, addition renovation with the parcel this time, so we're able to get more access to the school off of Franklin Street, which is a plus. This one is an 89,112 square foot building, grossing factor of 1.49, so we're right at the limit of MSBA on that. We'd have to be careful as we develop this option that we don't go any higher than that. Estimated construction cost of $37 million. Again, some of the things you'll find over on the partial support column for the ED program, breakout spaces, age similar neighborhoods, those things all lack a little bit in the ad reno options. The new scheme that we came up with since our meeting last week is a single story option called Design Alternative 02E. This building is 83,378 gross square feet. The grossing factor of 1.43, which is the lowest of all the alternatives. Estimated construction cost of $35.9 million. And you can see once again, with new construction, we're back to fully supporting the ED program in minimal phase. And you can see we've dashed in the footprint of the existing Abner or existing Franklin school here to show you that we could actually build the new school up to about this point right here. Which would have all the mechanical, the boilers and everything in them. So you have all your HVAC systems, your sprinkler system, plumbing systems, all of that would be in this portion of the building. We'd have enough classrooms for the 12 classrooms in the existing school. You would have to use art classroom, the music classroom, and some of the self-contained sped classrooms for general classrooms until the school was complete. But with just the two neighborhoods, we would be able to do that. You'd also have a full kitchen, cafeteria, the media center, the gymnasium. So you could have a self-contained school by building something up to this point here. And then once that was done and the kids moved over, we could take down the existing school and finish construction and site development where the footprint sits now. 1.43 I mentioned is our lowest grossing factor, and that's because we were able to get rid of all the stair towers and the elevators and things like that we would have had to carry in a two-story option. So kind of as I went through the options last week and showed you how the buildings were organized, I've got the same kind of a couple slides here to go through to show you how this alternative works. You basically will have a public zone, which is kind of this bottom long bar. And then we've got the neighborhoods that radiate off of that. So first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth, and then a pre-KK. The pre-KK is near the parking area. If you look at how it works, we've got parent drop-offs come this way and drop off along that curve. Buses are off of this loop here. All access for vehicles is off of Franklin Street instead of Franklin Avenue in this option. The entrance it's right here at the arrow. So it's not facing Franklin Street, although we could easily rework that if this is an alternative the district chooses to pursue. We could see if we can incorporate an entrance that faces the street, but with the entrance here, I think it works well with a canopy. We could certainly make it visible from Franklin Street and have it read as the entrance to the school from Franklin Street. But it also gets drop-offs, especially for handicapped students, very close to the entrance, so that they're in bad weather, they can get right from their vehicle and under cover quickly. So again, here's the main entrance. You come into a lobby space with a vestibule first. So after school is in session, all visitors would be directed through the administrative office before they're allowed into the school, and the inner vestibule doors would be locked. But during, before and after school hours, when there's different events, community events going on, the doors could be open for people to filter in and out. And at that point, each of the classroom neighborhoods could be isolated behind locked doors, so that people could kind of meander their way through, whether they're accessing the media center, the gym, the cafeteria, or just any kind of a community event. There's a nice flow that comes in here, and then we've got a vestibule and some doors that go out to the outdoor space behind the school. Neighborhoods typically will have your 4 general classrooms and then some sped space. Again, as we develop this option, if it's pursued, we would distribute some of these sped classrooms into the neighborhoods a little bit more, so they're not the first thing. More similar to what you see in the 4th grade neighborhood down here. But it gives the self-contained spaces and the pull-out and intervention spaces that the ED program was asking about. We're able to provide all of that. We've got courtyards in between each of the wings, which are outdoors. It's not an enclosed courtyard, I think, which was mentioned last week. We can certainly look at options for enclosed courtyards, but we find a lot of times in renovating projects, especially, or the courtyards lack maintenance when they're enclosed because it's difficult to get equipment in and out. Open-ended courtyards are easier and more likely to be well maintained. And these would all of these wings face the National Guard base, which we plan on putting a nice buffer. So these are really kind of private courtyards, even though they're open at one end. We could certainly look at fencing or something to close them off more, but we just thought that was a good option. So if you're looking at public zone, this is what you'd have in it. You'd have your gymnasium, all your public spaces, the media center, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, a stage between both, so that you could either open up to a large performance venue or to smaller performance venues on the cafeteria side. You've got a nice service area here for receiving and all the custodial areas. The kitchen is right behind that, so it's easy to get the your food deliveries and your trash and recyclables out of the building. Staff lunchroom looking out towards with some exterior windows. The admin office, as I mentioned, right to the left. The media center's got a direct adjacency with a steam room that has access right to the outside as well. Part of the public spaces are the music and art rooms, so that if there's an art show or something, or if there's a music performance at the stage, those spaces are not behind locked doors, so kids can queue up in the music room for a band performance, or you can have an art show all along the gallery with the art room open as well. 2 toilet rooms, multi-user toilet rooms are provided in the public zone as well in this option. Looking at a typical neighborhood, we've got the general classroom spaces, we've got the special ed spaces. The pre-K K wing has toilet rooms. All the pre-K and K classrooms have toilet rooms dedicated to them, so you don't get a student toilet room there. But all of the other classroom neighborhoods, 1st to 4th grade, will have a single gender neutral toilet room right in the neighborhood, so that students don't have to travel down the corridor and into the public area for unscheduled breaks. I think that classes would probably, for any scheduled breaks, still use the multi-user toilet rooms, but this is more for the student that didn't go at recess and needed something. We've also got staff toilet rooms in each of the classroom wings, so that the staff doesn't have to travel far outside the wing either, and can get back to their classrooms and supervising the children and teaching. As we showed before, the neighborhoods kind of have this open circulation zone. We're calling some of that a breakout space, which is extended learning. We can have some windows between the classrooms in this area here, so that if there are students working out here, teachers have passive supervision. We've also organized the student cubbies and a couple of U-shaped areas. And within each of those would be a smaller, somewhat contained, small group space, so that if there was a lot of kids working on bigger group projects, but just a couple doing a break off, or if we need some of those students needed some intervention work, they can move to the small group space and work there. We've also got direct access to covered outdoor space. If we just carry this roof on the classroom neighborhood straight across, we have a kind of a sheltered but outdoor classroom space before you got into the completely open courtyards. So, pardon me. And then just the site organization briefly. We've got a Franklin Street presence, which I think we heard a lot last week was strongly desired. We've completely, in this alternative, eliminated any kind of school traffic in the neighborhood. So all the vehicular traffic comes off of Franklin Street. We've got a longer queue for the parents dropping off, kind of feedback from last meeting as well. There's fire department access around the building. We do have courtyards that are open, as I mentioned, but they face this kind of, we're gonna try to create a buffer along the National Guard fence line there. So I think it'll still be a nice kind of enclosed feeling there. And a lot of open field space is able to be retained in this alternative as well. So that's 2E. You guys can certainly ask questions about that once I wrap up in just a minute. And I didn't do a slide, but our next steps is the preferred schematic report. So what happens is, if you guys approve submission of our PDP, the preliminary design program today, that'll get packaged all up tomorrow and delivered to Boston by Thursday this week. MSBA reviews that. They'll usually get us comments back within a couple days, some preliminary comments for anything big that they might see. But then after that, as Dan mentioned last week, it's a couple days. They technically have 30 days to get us their comments. They usually get them to us sooner. Once we receive their comments on our submission, we have to address those within 14 days. So within a month and a half, the PDP phase of this will be completely resolved. But even before then, beginning tomorrow, in fact, we'll get working on the PSR, the preferred schematic report. In that submission, we have to present each of the ones that we did in the PDP. Some of them we won't develop. A lot of I think that we can probably write no further development on the single enrollments if the district in fact says that they're not interested in those. But we just tell them why, the cons of that and why the decision was made. And then when we get into the dual enrollments, we can look at the different options and get feedback from the school department and the building committee to decide which ones we think are most viable that we should spend our time developing. And one of those hopefully should kind of rise to the top that will provide the most development on for the preferred schematic report. That submission approval is not until June or something on the schedule. But we in fact have to have the building, all of our drawings and narratives done by April to get to cost estimators, so that we have good hard estimate numbers for submission in May. And then we either have a facility assessment subcommittee presentation in Boston in May or June. We won't know that until MSBA tells us which of their dates is available for us. But that's why we have to get our submission in May, so that they have the flexibility of giving us our meeting on the day that fits best for them. So by April, hopefully we'll have an option that the committee and the city feels is the right one. We'll have it developed further. We'll have a real cost estimate done on it. Although with the cost estimates, what you'll find is the real estimates at this point, not just us putting square foot numbers to it, by people who do this every day and really kind of understand the bidding environment and all the science that goes in behind coming up with these numbers. But you'll see a large design contingency, and the construction cost might be smaller for the stuff that's listed, because there's just still not a lot of development at the end of preferred schematics of the preferred schematic report. But as we go on, the design contingency shrinks. and you get a more robust kind of line by line detailed estimate of what the construction will be all the way until we get to our 90%, where we should have a much, really just about no design contingency left, and it should all be populated with actual numbers from the details in our drawings. So that's the next step, is the preferred schematic report. As I said, that wraps up in the summer, but really we have to have a lot of our work done for the cost estimators by April. So Stefan, I'm sorry to say we got a lot more of these meetings to go with you and your group, but exciting nonetheless. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where this goes and which option the city likes, and getting into it. So with that, if there are any questions on anything in the report, I know I did send the whole thing out to people as a PDF file the other night. I doubt everybody read it all, but if anybody did and has any questions, feel free to ask about that as well, not just anything limited to the slides tonight.
I just wanted to say, I know we kind of put that on you last minute about the single floor option, but I have to say, I really like the single floor option. Being in a building that has stairs is challenging, even with an elevator. So thank you for doing that. It looks great.
Well, I have a good staff. It certainly wasn't just me. So,
thank you. Thank you.
Can I just say I wanted to thank you for addressing the concerns we focalized last week about not just an entrance on Franklin Ave, but the dangers of an entrance on Franklin Street if there wasn't enough room for traffic, and that new O2E really I think makes it a lot safer. So thank you.
So Bert, I'm looking, and correct me if I'm wrong, the design alternative O2E that we're looking at now versus the O2A, which is the double story, is probably just a cost estimate, but about $3 million cheaper with a single floor, correct?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the numbers again, but I could confirm that for you. Let's just say that one was 35.
Yes, roughly. Yep, roughly about 3 million.
Okay.
Yep.
So with regard to the single, I love that all the land that's still available for development. And I too, Ray, appreciate the parking situation and the traffic flow and everything. But what I most appreciate is that there's that gap, or there's that that breadth between the Franklin Avenue neighborhood and the school. I like that we're abutting the armory rather than the neighborhood to give that little breather. And I think that's great that small street of Franklin Avenue does not have to be inundated with cars and kids and parents. And I think it's great. I really, really appreciate this design, Bert. Inside and out.
I do want to note that Dan Pallotta has joined us. So Dan, if you have anything you want to add.
So much to add, so little time. Actually, I mean, the plan for the single story is a great plan. I actually envision that being flipped 180 degrees should we acquire the parcel on the corner, so that the parking lot is facing the armory, and that the residents are facing no lights and no cars in what is now their backyard. So there's absolutely plenty where we can go with a couple of these, not just the single story, but even a couple of the two-story ones. I think what we've demonstrated in the PDP is that there are plenty of options, and I think we've got a little way to go on which one's going to be the one we want to go with. But I do think sooner rather than later, we're going to have to eventually notify MSBA that there's no appetite for a single enrollment in Westfield. I haven't heard anyone ask for a single enrollment and leave the Abner Gibbs School open. So at some point, we're going to have to cross that bridge formally. But I do have the PDP. It's right here. It's a wonderful little document. It's that thick. It's 2 days worth of copying and cutting and pasting and Tammy has her copy. She's already read hers. She got it 5 minutes ago. She's fully done. She's got her notes. But, you know, even this, that we're asking to look at, you know, there'll be a couple of edits before we get it to Boston and on Thursday. But we are right on target to the schedule that we submitted to MSBA on October 15th, which is, has us, I believe in the May or June facility assessment, Bert. And as Bert indicated, it'll be up to MSBA. The facilities assessment is a really interesting venue. It's like questions of the day in Parliament, where the superintendent and the principal and the design team and the OPM get questions just thrown at them, and you got to really be on the ball as to why educationally you did that, why we scheduled this, and why we designed that. So we'll be ready for FAS when we get to FAS, but this is a really good first step, and I hope that everybody's happy with the fact that we've demonstrated, which is what the PDP is all about, that this school project can fit on this site. And will work within the confines of what Westfield is looking for.
I just had a question when I was reviewing the documents. I noticed on the single enrollment, you did this a lot, and I was looking to see if you did it in the consolidated version. There was a lot of notes about how tight the space was. And I just had a little concern with that, being that some of that type of language had gotten in our past project, and it really hurt us. So I just want to make sure when we're talking about the consolidated school that we're stressing that everything fits nicely on the site, that we're not saying it's tight. It's the word tight in the site constraints makes me nervous with the MSBA.
Okay.
And then Dan, can you just go over, I know we talked about the May-June timeframe, but there's another whole piece that really involves much more of the community as a whole looking at our designs. You know, I think people think we're voting on a design tonight, and that's not really what's happening. So can we talk about, after the May-June timeline, we still have another whole section of work that needs to happen prior to us going forward with the project funding agreements that get voted on by the MSBA and then council and all that. So Dan, if you could just talk a little bit about that next phase, I think it'll help with some of the public and our members here to understand what the next phase after the May-June timeline is.
So if you remember the very first meeting, we were talking about PDPs, PSRs, preferred schematic, all these acronyms. The mayor had stopped and said, "What's PDP? What's PSR?" So we're already past the first one, which is PDP. The second one is PSR, which is Bert has indicated is further developing a few of these. Which is preferred, which ones do we really want to go down and which ones do we want to abandon, and that's going to be a meeting in itself post PDP submission. And once we do that, we'll start doing some public outreach. We'll do Zoom meetings, just like we did with the visioning for the community. We'll do something similar to that and get input. We're probably going to get input from the neighborhoods. We're probably going to get input from some concerned parents, or what their new school is going to be. And that's public outreach is a requirement of MSBA. And we'll have to do it during the PSR phase and demonstrate it before the board of directors allows us to go to the following phase, which is called schematic design. And schematic design is module 4. This is module 3. If you remember, I gave you a link to module 3 for those of you that are bored and want to read government regulation. Module 3 is a great read. But we can't go to module 4 without literally a vote of the board of directors. And the board of directors are not going to vote that without the Facility Assessment Committee, the FAS, voting to endorse what's going to be this preferred schematic design that we develop into schematic design. So, and they're not going to do that if there's no public comment, there's no outreach, because they want the project to be successful and they want the end users to have buy-in, not just the 6 or 7 people that are on the committee or the 10 people that are on the committee. So yeah, we got a couple of rounds to go before May. Won't quite be as quick and developed as we did PDP. Will be a little more breathing room on PSR, but it'll get we're going to start getting into the weeds in PSR, and then really into the weeds, almost to the dirt, with schematic design. Did I confuse everybody?
No, thank you, Dan, for doing that. I want the public to know that there is a lot of opportunity coming forward to voice opinions, to have input into what we're doing. I just want to make sure people know that, we're not trying to slide something in, that these are the steps that we need to take with the MSBA, and we are very high level currently, and that we'll start drilling down into the weeds as the months go on. So there will be lots of visioning sessions now coming up, and we'll make sure that we're communicating with all the parties. Dan, I know your teams used to do newsletters for some of our other projects, so I'd really like to start doing those again. I think it's important for the school community, the parents, the students to get excited and to have a say in what's going on. So I'll get off my soapbox for that for a little bit. I just wanted to stress that there is opportunity coming up.
Well, now that we have content through the PDP, we can do a newsletter and take snippets of the PDP to try and start peaking that public outreach.
And Tammy, I just want to thank you for your soapbox. That was a good one.
Anyone else have comments or questions for anybody? See anybody? Well, then what's our next step for tonight?
I think it would be proper for us to endorse the PDP submission to MSBA, subject to the approval of the mayor and the superintendent of schools. The mayor acting as both mayor and chief executive officer and chairman of the school committee. Because there's everything we've given you is 99.99% there. There's 4 or 5 little typos that no superintendent of school would allow us to submit out, and we want to get those corrected tomorrow. But an endorsement of the PDP would be in order, and that would be in the meeting minutes that we would submit post submission of the PDP.
I'd like to amend my original motion to include all that Dan just stated. Thanks, Rob.
I second.
Very good. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? If not, we'll go right to the roll call, please. On item number 4.
Mayor Humison,
Yes.
Stefan Zaporowski,
Yes.
Shannon Barry,
Yes.
Stacy Burgess,
Yes.
Chris Carey,
Yes.
Ray Diaz,
Yes.
Ralph Figge,
Yes.
Brian Ferret,
Yes.
Shelley Hazlett,
Yes.
Bridget Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Bill Parks,
Yes.
Cindy Sullivan,
Yes.
Tammy Test,
Yes.
Chris Tolpa,
Yes.
Lisa Benoit.
Yes.
The motion
Cindy,
passed.
this is Brian Sullivan. I showed up late, but I'm a yes.
Oh, okay, Brian, do you know what time you came in at?
10 minutes ago.
Okay, thanks.
well before Ralph's motion and Dan's words.
Okay, can we repeat everything so Brian hears it?
Nope, I'm good. I'm good.
Brian, the last guy in the meeting has to pay for, I don't know, the cost of the school. So,
There we go.
okay.
DOE starts got that.
Item number 5, any other items not reasonably anticipated 48 hours prior to tonight's meeting?
Mayor, I have something to say. It's Bridget Matthews Kane.
Sure, Counselor.
I received another letter. It's another letter from Jeff Goslin. Instead of reading it, I'd just like to summarize his 3 main points. He reiterated that he'd like to be a community representative. He argued that people in the neighborhood should have opportunity to provide feedback, and he'd like a special meeting for residents of Ward 3. And that's what Jeff said. I'd just like to say I was really heartened by what Dan had to say about how the process is going to be going forward, and that there will be a lot of opportunities for residents to participate. And I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you. And I
Thank you.
already entered this in the public record too, earlier today.
Thank you, Counselor Matthews Kane. Appreciate that. Anything else?
Can I say something before we close,
Cindy, go ahead.
Mayor? I know that there's a lot of talk about community participation, and I don't want to like get into an argument or anything, but in the last process that was started 11 years ago, we did have public participation. We did invite the community. I actually went door to door and handed out flyers personally, so I know that that happened. So I really feel like there was an ask from the community to participate, and it didn't occur to people necessarily to get involved until there was a plan. And I think that happens with a lot of projects. So I'm all for community support and community involvement. And I just don't want to make this a political thing either. And people who want to jump on board now, I think it's because it's in the forefront more. And it might be for political reasons for future elections. So I just want to kind of put that out there, that I think we need to just be aware of that. That's it.
And I'd also like to say Lisa Benoit is on here, as she wears many hats. She's a parent, she's a PTO president, and she's a community member. She does live on Orange Street, and well, the corner of, Lisa, help me out, but she lives right up the street. And so we do have a community representative on this board, and who is very involved in a lot of different things that go on in the neighborhood and the community at large and our school.
And I'm just going to echo one thing that Cindy had indicated. To change the building committee requires, believe it or not, the approval of MSBA. When the building committee was formed by the mayor, the building committee was submitted with what each representative is, school committees, counselor, and so on and so forth. So it's not, I'm not saying it's impossible, because everything's possible, but it's just not common to be adding and subtracting people to a building committee that's already been formed. And I think that any of the public that wants to participate will have their chance in the open forums on the design as we're going forward.
Thank you for saying that, Dan, and I appreciate that. We have 16 members on the committee. Those 16 members have been active since the beginning. I think we put the committee together with a lot of thought, and of course, there was never any intention to leave out any one faction or group, but that's because the process is going to be entirely inclusive, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for everyone, from neighbors to students to people who will work in the building, people who will be involved in the community, to get involved in the process. So I appreciate folks being interested in the committee. I'm not inclined to change the membership of our committee at this point. I don't see a need to do that. I would welcome, however, anybody who is interested to participate throughout the long process. This is a lengthy process. It's a complicated and comprehensive process. And so people will have the chance to be involved. And we who are already on the committee are welcoming of that input. I think that's very, very important. And I think we will have a better project in the end if people do. So that would just be my perspective as chairman.
And I do also want to note at some point, we are going to hopefully not be on Zoom and we'll be in person.
Sure.
And we'll be having the ability to have some public participation. So, like I stressed before, there is going to be a lot of opportunities for not only the community right around the schools, but also the community of Westfield as a whole to actually have input into this, and we'll welcome that. But I echo, the school building committee was formed. We, I believe, have a very good representative of what is needed on this committee. And I welcome people's input. They can send in emails, letters, come to the meetings, participate, in any of our open sessions. So I welcome that from everybody here in Westfield.
I know I'm killing the topic here, but just back at the end of my term and the beginning of Mayor Hummison's, other residents, by the way, are also the Ward 2 counselor and the Ward 3 counselor who we added. And we really went through a list of making sure that we had an aggregate of principals that were involved and residents that were involved and elected officials that were involved. So if people do want to get in, I think going through us is the way to go. Apologize, Counselor Matthews Kane, if you're going to get a lot of letters, but that may be the way he does it is through you because you are a voting member. And I think we beat the horse here, but that's fine.
As the monkey in the middle between the two mayors, what the former mayor stated was, we sat down and had a very concerted discussion about filling each role that's required by the MSBA. So we have a very representative committee of the community and of the needs and the requirements. So I'm agreeing with everyone that we just stand pat and have public participation when we get to that stage. Thank you.
And just one more quick note, the committee would change potentially based on elections. So I'm a school committee representative. If I don't run and don't get reelected, then, that would change the committee at that point based on the elections, also with city councilors and with the mayor. So that's when the makeup of the MSBA, I think this committee changes, and then it would go to the MSBA because you don't want to make a whole lot all the time. And that's it. I'm done. My soapbox is over.
All right, other comments or questions?
Mayor, just before we end, so the next stage is I'm going to need signatures on some stuff. So I will make sure that everything's ready for you to sign. Stefan, will you be in and around City Hall that you could possibly come over and sign?
Just let me know when and I'll find my way.
Okay, so I'll make sure I have the documents ready. And then I will have Mayor, I've got the minutes ready for you to execute that we just voted tonight.
Okay, good.
And then the draft minutes from tonight. Cindy, if you want to, I hate to have you do more work, I apologize. But if you could get those to me tomorrow, I can get those forwarded on to Dan and to Jim Hanifan. MSBA just needs to see that we voted it, even though it's in a draft form.
Will do, in the morning.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good. All right, so there's nothing that we need to vote on, I don't think, at this point, other than when we adjourn. Is that right, Tammy? We don't have to vote on anything else for the MSB or anything like that?
No, sir.
No.
Nothing, Dan? Good.
Nothing, although I would like to say I'm in Tammy's office, so I'd like to come up and say hello while I'm here.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Just tell people you're in City Hall, Dan.
Well, I delivered the PDPs. I had an appointment.
Fuck up.
Sorry, nobody else is here. It's okay. Hey.
What did I do wrong?
Just wear your mask. We'll be okay. Anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. May we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mayor Humison,
Yes.
Stephanie Zaborowski,
Yes.
Shannon Barry,
Yes.
Stacy Burgess,
Yes.
Chris Carey,
Yes.
Ray Diaz,
Yes.
Ralph Figgy,
Yes.
Brian Perrette,
Yes.
Shelley Hazlet,
Yes.
Bridget Matthews Kane,
Yes.
Bill Parks,
Yes.
Brian Sullivan,
Yes.
Cindy Sullivan,
Yes.
Tammy Test,
Yes.
Chris Tolpa,
Yes.
Lisa Benoit.
Very good.
Thank
The
you,
time is
guys.
5:56 PM.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all very much.